Okay, and then I'm going to start recording. All right. All right, so it's 8 o'clock, so we'll get started. And if people trickle in, that's fine. But thanks everyone for being here. I know this was like super short notice, but we figured with conferences coming up and kind of that time of the year, and sorry if you hear my dog barking in the background. Anytime anything passes even remotely in front of our house, like he has a conniption and needs everyone to know. So I apologize for that. But we figured with conferences coming up and kind of everyone transitioning into application season and things like that, this would be a good lecture to give to kind of get you guys moving forward. But this lecture is going to be about being a medical student and attending a national conference for the first time, specifically in the world of EM. But let me see if I can click this. Um, Really quick, my name is Sarah Turley. I'm a fourth year student at LMU DCOM in Tennessee. I'm applying emergency medicine this upcoming cycle. ERAS just opened. Life is so exciting and stressful and fun, but it's crazy to already be here. I started on the board when I was second year going into third year. So it's kind of crazy to be full circle moment coming back around. But if anyone else is on, we have some people from the board if you guys want to introduce yourselves as well.
Hey y'all, this is Sarah's show, but I'm Savannah. I am a current intern at Creighton University, I guess, Maricopa County, down in Phoenix, Arizona. And I am the past DOSA on the board, so the past director of student affairs, which is Alex is our director of student affairs now. So I'll just bump to her.
Hey, she already introduced me. Sorry, my camera's not on. Like you probably heard, I'm currently in the middle of a hurricane, so I'm expecting my power to go out anytime now. But excited to be here. I'll be hanging out in the chat until I'm not anymore. That means my power's out. But excited to hear you wonderful girlies give this talk, and I will bump it over to Miranda.
Hey everyone, my name's Miranda. I am technically a third year, but I am doing a fellowship research year, so I'm kind of in between my second and third year. Um, and I'm at KCU. I'm just gonna have my camera off because I'm a mom and so I'm breastfeeding. But yeah, I'm really glad that you guys are all on here and it's super exciting. Conference is the best. I've been going since I was a first year and I absolutely love it. So excited to share it with you guys.
Awesome. Okay, I think that's everyone, if I'm not mistaken. But we can kind of get started. So, the reason why we're doing this lecture is why should you as a medical student attend conference? We understand that we're all broke and we're very busy. So, taking a weekend to go to conference, spending the money, doing hotels, trying to fit it in, especially third and fourth year with rotation schedules, is extremely difficult and it's a big commitment for you guys, both financially and with your time. So, I think it's good to kind of lay out what to expect from conference, what you're going to get out of it, so you can better plan moving forward to when you attend conference and things like that. Uh, Myself and Miranda, we've been planning this conference coming up and we're really excited for it. So we have a little bit of background and we're kind of going to be walking through what that looks like. In terms of conferences that are available to medical students, especially in the world of EM, we have a couple. So I'm mostly going to be talking about ACOEP, which is our organization. As you know, our conference is coming up in October. The RSO days, so our resident student days, are going to be October 6th and October 7th. So the conference stems from October 6th to October 10th, but you as a student, those days that you want to be there are the 6th and 7th. So whenever you're signing up for conferences, make sure you know kind of what lectures are student oriented, what are faculty oriented. But even as a student, my first year I went to ACOEP, I didn't know that. And I just attended all of the conference as a whole. So like I was sitting with docs and doc lectures as a second year, like what the heck is going on? But it was still like a good experience. So you can really make it what you want to, but there are usually student days that are set out for people. Um, you can see some of the organizations that are presented on the left side of the screen. I did a PowerPoint a couple weeks back for a lecture series talking about what the EM organizations are, which ones have student resident components to them. So that QR code right there, if you scan it, will take you to that presentation. So you can kind of get a look at all the different types of conferences. I also have ACEP on there that's coming up as well. That's another big one. But like I said, I'm kind of going to be showing you a little bit more into the ACOEP world, and I'll kind of explain the differences between those, what to expect from something like ACEP versus ACOEP, engaging some different conference settings moving forward as a student that can help you with your planning. But if you'd like access to that presentation, that's just about getting involved in student leadership, getting involved in these big organizations. There's so many of them. It's a big alphabet soup of things. So find that helpful. It's you guys to use. If you need it in the future, I'll put my email at the end there if you're unable to scan the code, but that's available to you. So in terms of what you will be doing at conference, so on the left side of the screen here is kind of your basic conference layout. You're going to have lectures, skills labs. Sometimes there's a residency fair, leadership activities, community events and luncheons. And then also a lot of the conferences are where, and we do it as well, they have their executive board elections, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Now, when you look at a conference online in the marketing, you'll see something like this. These are what is available to students. But really, kind of on the green here in the right is what you will be getting out of conference as a student. You'll learn more about the world of EM. You'll get to network, which honestly is one of the biggest things that we as students get out of conferences. Because like I said, we attend a million lectures, we do a million things, but the connections that you're making and putting yourself out there is really what's going to benefit you the most from attending these conferences. That's what you're paying for. Like I said, making connections not only with faculty, but also other EM people. I met all these incredible people on the board. I see some familiar faces also on here tonight. So it's cool to kind of grow that family. And you never know who you're going to be working with in the future. You never know when your paths are going to be crossed. EM is a small world. So it's really good to kind of make those connections early as a student and generally setting yourself up for success. As a program director, when they see students attending conferences or they see it, especially on your CV, any conference you go to, any lecture that's put on by big boards, these are things you can talk about in interviews and they see, oh, like Savannah attended ACOEP the past 2 years. Like she's pretty serious about EM. Like this has kind of been on her radar for a while and she's actively getting involved in the community. So these are big things that program directors will see, things you can put on your CV. So this is what your money is going to. But
like Sarah said, you never know who you're going to meet. We had a few med students that I've met at ACOEP conferences that like rotated through my program this year. They always ask residents for med student feedback, and it's always nice to just like have somebody to vouch for you and plug for you that you're nice and normal outside of the work setting too. So I think those are some of like the unspoken advantages, but
yeah, 100%. So ACOEP RSO Fall Conference, we are going to be in Houston in October. The QR code up in the right is how to register. So on the right side of the screen, you can see on Sunday, we're going to have lectures, and I'll go into a detail kind of about what each of these parts is in conference. We're also going to have a skills lab as well. Monday, we're going to have a leadership academy. We're going to have some more lectures. We'll have a residency fair with over 30 programs. And then we're going to have our board elections in person. So any of you students out there who have been wanting to get involved in national leadership and getting a position, this is the way you do it, is by attending conference. And we do only hold elections in person, so you have to be there to run for a position. So another reason why that financial investment is worth it is getting a position on the board if that's something you're interested in. In the bottom corner over here is what you'll see when you pull up the registration online. You can see the RSO programming. Make sure you click these things, the residency fair and the leadership academy. As you can see, they're zero cost to students on there. So that's really nice to see, especially for the leadership academy and residency fair. These are big resources for you to use. And Savannah is planning this incredible leadership academy this year. I'm so pumped for it. So I'll let her talk about that a little bit when we get to that slide. But that's kind of what you will be clicking when you scan that registration and going forward with that. This is kind of our mock schedule. So you guys will get to see it beforehand. You can kind of see how the days are set up. I like to show this because as a med student, you just sign up for a conference. You're not really sure, like, what am I going to be doing for the day? Where am I going to be going? I think it's good to kind of have a picture. So you can see on Sunday, we have a bunch of lectures that are planned. We actually have some really cool lectures. We have one over preeclampsia. We have some lectures coming in to talk about undifferentiated shock in patients when you see them at the bedside, what works in a cardiac arrest. And all of these lectures are tailored to residents and also medical students. So no worries about sitting there. Even if you're a first year, you won't be like, oh, what is going on? It is a great way to kind of dip your toe in some really high yield EM topics. And then you can see on Monday, we have the Leadership Academy in the morning. That is followed by our residency fair. We have a couple more lectures in the afternoon, and then we hold elections. So we have pretty big jam-packed days. You'll also have some social events mixed in there. You'll get to mingle with people who are in the EM world, come talk to us on the board. So we made sure that if you're going to invest the money in coming in conference, we make sure you guys get the most out of it. That also includes picking like subjects for lectures and also making sure we have a pretty robust residency fair and leadership academy criteria for you guys to gain something from going.
Hey,
So
Sarah,
yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry to interrupt. We've switched elections to Sunday though to make it more
Yeah,
accessible to attending students. I just wanted to so that people weren't confused.
gotcha. Yeah, I that was like from a long time ago. I made this like PowerPoint, but that's a good point. So you guys, elections will be on Sunday. Thank you, Miranda. Um, I completely forgot I didn't change that, so thank you. Um, So lectures, when you guys are going, here's some pictures from conferences in the past. You can see kind of in the bottom, in a lecture hall, sometimes we have tables. We have some really cool lectures planned. We use the WOVA app. So when you get to conference, you'll download the app and you can see it shows you which lectures are going to be presented. And this is your little calendar for the day. So you can see some of the really cool ones we had last year in the spring would be like we had a snakes and spiders lecture, a really cool ECG lecture by Dr. Casey. And then this picture of these men with really red faces is from our Hot Ones challenge, where we kind of gave a panel of some people in the EM world, the EM Over Easy podcast crew, some high yield kind of scary EM questions and also some fun ones, but we also made them eat very, very hot wings as they were answering these questions. So it was a real big hit. Definitely something that we're going to look to incorporate in the future, having these cool kind of mass events. But that was a really cool thing we did in the spring, and students seem to like it a lot. So we really bring some different and cool things to the table with conference. And us as conference chairs have been trying to be a little more creative and expand, like I said, to make your financial commitment to this worth going to. But we have a lot of cool lectures planned. You'll be sitting in the lecture room. They're about 25 minutes. We include breaks. So it's not like you're sitting there for 6 hours straight throughout the day, but quick fire lectures with some great information and all EM specific and little clinical pearls that you can use carrying on going forward. So skills labs is also a really big part of our conferences. You can see kind of a lot of the skills that we do: chest tubes, ultrasound, intubation. They did a really cool like intubation challenge. I think that was 2 springs ago, if I'm correct. I didn't get to go to that one, but doing intubation challenges, pediatric intubations, and a lot of the skills that maybe as a medical student you won't get to do in skills lab, like lateral canthotomy. And I got to see and help out with a lateral canthotomy a couple of weeks ago on my last audition rotation. So like it was really cool that I could even talk to the attending, like, oh, I've done a couple skills labs at conference with this, and they actually made a kit made of ping pong balls and rubber bands. And when they hear things like that, that's really, really good for you as a student, because they're like, oh, she's done some of this before. She's been interested in this. So it gives you a little more to talk on. We did a mass casualty beanie baby triage lab last year. You can see Ellis. He's our skills lab coordinator and our resident conference chair. He built this Lego. We all kind of helped him the night before, Lego amusement park thing. That's me right there doing the priapism lab. We have some chest tubes with the ribs and then a lot of ultrasound as well in central lines. We're going to have some I&D abscess this year. So these are really nice ways to kind of get your feet wet when they ask you, have you done this before? Have you done intubations? I got asked last week on my audition rotation, have you done an intubation? No. Have you done intubation skills labs? Yes, I have. I've done a couple of them. So these are big things to have under your belt as a student moving forward, especially through auditions. And they're really fun. I really like the skills lab portion. Ellis has done a good job of planning that and trying to keep it fresh, but also keep it really interactive and high yield for students. And I will throw it over to Savannah to talk about all the amazing things she's doing with Leadership Academy this year.
Okay, so quick plug for Leadership Academy. If you guys are at conference, definitely sign up for this. So it is an extra click, but it is free. It's going to be the Monday morning portion of our programming from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. At Scientific Assembly, at the hotel, whatever. But it's going to be really fun. Basically, it's going to be like a team-based skills race where each member of the team is hopefully going to lead one portion of the race. So there'll be a mix of clinical skills, there'll be like a medical crossword puzzle, and then also just like some other puzzles mixed in. So something should be like within the wheelhouse of every student there to lead and pick a challenge to champion. I think it'll be really fun. It'll be fast paced. And then we'll finish with kind of a talk on how to build leadership skills as a medical student with Dr. John Casey, who is the program director for Ohio Health Doctors. I think it'll be really great. So I hope you guys sign up for it. Also a little plug, but this is definitely something to put on your CV under leadership stuff. Talk about gaining these skills at conference. So definitely be part of it.
Yeah, I'm pumped for this. I'm a huge Survivor fan. I think during COVID, like I binged watched all of the seasons. So when we were thinking about like a Survivor theme, I was pumped. I'm still convinced I want to dress up as Jeff, but we're gonna have to find a wig and some cargo shorts, which won't be that hard. But so definitely that's something,
I think we
especially
can make it happen.
I think so too. I think so too. Um, and I think this is really cool because I really haven't seen a lot of this stuff done at conferences. So Savannah's put a lot of work into it. And it's something, like she said, you can put on your CV under leadership. That's the name of the game, is putting things on your CV that you can speak about and you can talk about your involvement in emergency medicine as especially like a preclinical student and also while you're on rotations and moving into application season. Another big part, and we're going to kind of talk in depth about this one, is residency fairs. So the way we do our residency fair is a speed dating. This year we have over 30 programs, both DOs and MDs. I saw Vandy was on the list, so we're really happy with the amount of kind of action that we've got. With this is kind of a comparison to things like ACEP versus ACOEP. ACOEP is the osteopathic emergency medicine physicians. So a lot of our programs are DO, but it is a smaller family. So these programs, they come a lot of the times, many year after year. They're involved with us a lot. So you can see repeats of programs when you come. If you come second year, you'll see them again third year a lot of the time, but it's a smaller family. You have more time to talk to the programs, but we'll pretty much, you can kind of see the map from a couple years ago. You'll have tables, you'll walk up to the table, you'll sit down, they'll give you their little spiel, you'll get all the free swag, and you'll get to meet with them. And then after that, once you rotate through the tables, we'll have kind of an expo. So that's a free for all. It's not as structured. If there was a program you liked that you wanted to go swoop back around and talk to the PD or ask another question, or maybe you didn't get to go to a table and you wanted to go check them out, that's the time to do that. So that's also a really great opportunity for you to swing back around if you're specifically interested in one program or another, and get some extra face time with the directors and the faculty at that program. When you are going into residency fairs as a student, I don't think this is something that's taught in medical school. And really the purpose of this whole presentation is I was not really stressed to go to residency fairs, go to conference, go to things like that. The biggest advice I give to a lot of the students I talk to is go to conference. You have no idea what you get by just networking. And conference, again, is an additional thing that you can add on, just like you could crush your boards. Like that would be great. You can get 4.0s. That would be great. You can go to every conference. That would be great. So if you can't go for any financial reason, I just want to preface that's okay. You still match EM, but these are some big things that can kind of bump you up in that list. Dress professional, I think that goes without saying, but comfortable. So if you're going to be uncomfortable, conferences are kind of tiring. Residency fairs, sitting there actively listening is tiring. So make sure you're comfy. Make sure you're still presenting yourself well. When you introduce yourself to someone, use your full name. There is a million Sarahs out there. There's a million Savannahs out there. I think it's a really good habit whenever you introduce yourself to someone. My name is Sarah Turley. That's who I am. And that's kind of how you need to go about it. Say where you're from. My name's Sarah Turley. I'm a fourth year student at LMU DCOM. It's nice to meet you. Give them a handshake. These are just things you should get comfortable practicing. And especially if you go to conference as a second year and as a third year and you get reps doing this, when you go on auditions and you're meeting a million people who you need to impress, these skills will carry over and help you. Another thing that I think people don't realize too is make sure before you sit down at the next table, look down at your name tag, make sure it's facing up, because they're not going to remember your name after meeting you one time. So I always make sure before I go and talk to someone or introduce myself, I make sure I look down. My name tag's facing front so they can see it and also kind of refer back to it as they're speaking to me. This bullet point, I think, is the biggest one. Don't be weird. Be yourself. And I say that because I am learning from my own mistakes. I attended conference my second year. I met a program director from the only Ohio program who was there. I'm like, oh my gosh, Ohio, like this is so great. Like this could be a program I could be interested in. Second year med school student, I really didn't know where I wanted to go for residency. This was all new to me. I walked up, I met the PD, like it was great. Flip forward the next year in conference, I walked up to the table. I shook his hand and he said, "Hey, Sarah, how you doing?" And I looked this man in the eyes and said, "I'm doing great. I think I'm ready to head home. I think I'm ready to come home to Ohio." And this man just kind of looked at me like, "Okay, that's great." Like I was like LeBron James, like I'm coming home, like this big decision. Like this man doesn't know that. Like it was just such a weird interaction. I looked back at it and I'm like, why did I say that? So just make sure that you're aware like of what a residency fair is. Keep it friendly, keep it normal. Don't be like me and like charge up there like I've made the decision. I'm going to sign to play at this. You know what I mean? Like I made it like an NFL draft day thing. I'm like, I'm coming home. And he just looked at me like I was crazy. I ended up getting an audition at that program and I know the PD very well now. So it's all smoothed over, but looking back on it, it's just one of those cringe moments that I'm like, oh, why did I say that? Why did I do that? So just be aware of like what you're saying. It's a residency fair. It's not an interview. There's no need to make it this big thing when it's not. Be friendly, look engaged. When someone's speaking or you're learning about the program, I don't care if it's a program you never want to go to. Active listening, eye contact, paying attention. Because especially if you ask a question that they maybe said in their little spiel, that may look bad, like, oh, they weren't paying attention. Like, I told you what fellowships we have. Like, that's a weird question to ask. What fellowships do you have? Take the free swag. I feel like when you walk up to a table, all the med students are like, oh, they'll take some swag. And everyone's like, okay, I'm pulling that stuff and I'm putting it in the bag. Like, this is free stuff, free pen lights, all their info brochures, take them. I actually have a big folder at my house from residency fairs I've gone to. Whenever I go to the fair, it has their contact card. You can grab business cards. I put it in that folder. And now that I'm kind of moving forward towards application season, I sat down, looked at all that information, and pulled out programs that I was interested in so I can be like, oh, I've already talked to so and so from this program when I was in DC for this conference. So having those things on hand and saving that information, just put it in a folder kind of with your school stuff. That was something that I learned kind of helped me moving forward. If it's a program you're interested, stay in contact. Instagram, social media are great ways to look at a program. If you have any way, like that's a great question to ask too. Like, oh, like if I want to, you guys have an Instagram, do you have any way that I can kind of keep up on what your residents are doing? A lot of residents and faculty members have their email on their cards. Save that information. And even you can shoot an email after. It was great meeting with you. Like, thank you so much for coming to conference. I'm definitely interested in the program and look forward to speaking with you later on as I go through the auditioning process. So these are quick ways to kind of get a first face card with these programs. Like I said, this is not an interview. Don't stress. Don't make it more than it is. This is just a very stress-free way for you to go window shopping for programs. I think it's a really fun part of kind of second year, third year, fourth year is where do I want to go? Like, let's see what's out there. It's like dating, but a lot more stressful, I think. But it's a great time for you just to have fun, look at some programs, get some free stuff, take all the free stuff. I have like 9 koozies, I think, from different residency programs. So don't be the med student that's just like, I'm not going to take it. Take it. They brought it. They don't want to bring it home on their flight. Their bag's already overweight. So help them out. Now, this is just some quick for each level of medical student when you're approaching a residency fair, because a first year medical student is going to approach a residency fair a lot differently than a fourth year medical student. So as a first year, take time to soak it in. Like, I love this video of the kid when he's like, wow, who are you? Like, this is what you should be like. This is exciting. These are all people in emergency medicine doing what you're going to be doing in your future. Look at the programs, start to meet people. If there's a program that's maybe in your state or has an alumni that you know, introduce yourself, start making connections. This is your time to get excited. When you go into second year and you're kind of going through these fairs, I did this a lot. I think it was back in maybe Washington. We had a residency fair and I was actually sitting at a table with Savannah and Alex, and I did a lot of watching them and even like writing down some of the questions they were asking. I think Alex asked like, what shifts do you work? I'm like, why do I care about that? And now as a fourth year, I'm like, oh, I care about that. Like that's something I needed to know. So watch the people around you, watch how people are interacting, look at how the third and fourth years are kind of marketing themselves, the questions they're asking. what they're kind of putting at the front of their line, and how they ask certain things like, oh, uh, I interviewed with you, or oh, like I'm planning on rotating with you. See how they navigate those situations and learn from the people around you. And it's always nice to ask questions too. And same thing, keep building those relationships. You can also ask about things that are pertinent to you as a second year. So, do you guys require STEP if I was interested in your program? So that can kind of gauge, like, do you have to take STEP? I didn't really ask those questions, but they are things you can ask. Or, hey, what is someone who interviews for you? What is their COMLEX score look like? What is kind of the average that you do? Because a lot of programs don't put it on their website. They just say required COMLEX or STEP. So these are things you can be asking from your wheelhouse as a second year, and that's kind of what you need to be worried about. So take notes, pay attention, continue to build relationships. As a third year, this is where things start kind of ramping up. So this is the part where, like last year at conference, I talked to a program and I was like, oh, I don't really have an ICU rotation at my site. They're like, oh my gosh, put your email down right next to it that you want to do an ICU rotation. We'd love to come and have you. So these are ways for you to get not only audition rotations, but also some really cool offsite rotations, or like ESLA rotations, subspecialties, talks, ultrasound, things like that, especially if you've already kind of scheduled auditions on the back end of fourth year. These are ways to pick up ones that may be a program that you've met that you liked, but didn't really do an audition with. You can set up future rotations with them. And then also, if they accept VSLO or other things like Clinician Nexus, things like that, the majority of programs I feel like all do VSLO, but it's always a good thing to ask if there's a program you're really, really interested, just so you don't miss it when it comes through on VSLO. And then fourth years, and this is kind of what we'll be doing, is like I'm attending conference in coming up in a couple weeks, but really take time to network. Like if there's a program that I see that's on there that I know that I applied to, I'm going to make it a point to go up and say hi. Even if I rotated through with them, I'm going to make a point to go by that table and say hi. If it's a program that I didn't do an audition at that I'm applying to, I'm going to make a point to say hi. I know Alex she told the story about like she was waiting for an interview from one of the programs. She walked up to him and was like, hey, yeah, I applied. Like, haven't gotten an interview yet. The next day, like she saw an email that she got an interview. So these conversations really do help. I feel like when you're in person a lot, it's a lot easier to say no to someone online or to seeing a name on a list. When they meet you and see your face, they're like, oh, I probably should have gave Sarah an audition. Like she was so cool when I met her in person. This is a great kind of stage to prep for interviews. If you see a program that you like, asking them about, oh, like I did apply, let them know you applied, because you may get an interview offer just from the conversations you have during the conference. And really kind of be on your best behavior as a fourth year. You're going through the application cycle. I know I am, and it's very nerve-wracking and scary, but best foot forward, just like a job interview would be. But it is a residency fair, so have fun and just kind of be relaxed and dip your toe in the waters of some different programs. I always found this part to be the worst part of residency fairs, when you're sitting down and they said, okay, here's my 2 minute spiel. We're not rotating for another 5 minutes. You're sitting at the table and they say, what questions do you have for us? As a second year, I'm like, what's it like being in Michigan? Like, I'm like, not even, I have no idea what that process looks like. So if you have your phone, this is a great list of some questions to kind of possibly ask residency programs, asking about fellowship opportunities, the shift length. If you're a person, I know I hate working 12s, like I really love a program that does 8 or 10s. That's just my personal preference. Living in the area, especially if you're looking out of state or somewhere you've never been. I've never been to Michigan. I'm applying to some programs in Detroit. So a lot of the questions I've been asking is, what's it like living in Detroit? Like, is there good food? Do you guys go to sporting events? Like, do you have hiking? Also, rotation opportunities is third and fourth years. Do they go through VSLO? Can I come by and do a rotation? Procedure priorities, meaning like, are they opposed or unopposed? If there's a shoulder reduction, does ortho come down and take tabs on that? If there's a trauma, is trauma running it? Are we running it? Is it split half of the month? If there's an airway, are we calling RT and anesthesia to come down, or are we responsible for that? And these are kind of things, if you're a second or first year sitting here, that may kind of be like, oh, well, why would I care about that? As you go into audition rotations, you'll kind of see the differences when you have consults on hand versus don't. So these are just really good questions to kind of see what exposure their residents are getting. And personal interests, if you like to hike, like I said, ask about the hiking. If you like to do yoga or sports, anything like that. If you're a big Lions fan, ask about anything like that. They care about you as a human too. I think that's the big perk of EM is everyone kind of has their hobbies. That's our thing. So you can ask about those things. It doesn't have to be just hospital related. Training sites. So are you all at one site, one hospital all the time? Do you have to travel? I know some of the places up here in Detroit, they go to Baltimore shock trauma for their trauma rotation. So knowing if you're going to have to be moving around to different hospitals, do they do peds in-house? Do you have to be going somewhere else for peds? What is it kind of like in terms of the patient population? Is it mostly kind of like a rural, underserved with a lot of flying out and a lot of like heavy on procedures? Or is it kind of at an academic center where you have a lot of consults and you see a lot of traumas, a lot of GSWs, all of that things? So you can ask about just general, what is your patient population like? Do you kind of start at one rotation site? Do you have little side hospitals where you get to experience community medicine while you're at an academic center? Things like that. Resident benefits, especially if you have a family or family planning. Wellness is always a great thing. CME funding or kind of going to conferences as a resident. Do they have funding for that? Especially, I know myself, I'm interested in medical education. So that's always a question I ask just because I would like to be involved in organizations like this through my years as a resident. And then also didactics is always a great question. It's like, what are your didactics like? Do you do a lot of skills lab work? Do you have a lot of lectures from residents? Like, what is your training out of working in clinic look like for your residency program? So these are all good questions to ask. And if you don't have any questions, don't ask any questions. I felt like the need to talk whenever they asked. And I'm like, probably shouldn't have asked that question, but it's okay to be silent too and just say, no, thank you. Like, this was super helpful. Like, looking forward to meeting with you again or looking forward to kind of learning more as I get close to audition season. So if you don't have a question, no need to ask it. But these are just some options if you want to stand out to a program. Networking. So I don't know if anyone has seen New Girl, but there's an episode in New Girl where pretty much you can see the two girls on the right, they're both going for this guy at a wedding. And she comes up with a tactic called Bidening. Nothing to do with like the election or anything right now. I'm not trying to start any issues, but she says you need to Biden him. And what that means is wherever he goes, she goes. She shows up. He goes to the bathroom, she's there. He goes by the bar. Oh my gosh, she's there. At the end of the night, she's there. That's a big part of what networking is. Your face card, your name and your face card have a lot of power. Think of it as a passport. Every time you have an interaction with a PD, every time you have an interaction with the program, they're going to stamp their passport. Second time I'm seeing Sarah, second time I'm seeing her face, Biden them. Because you never know how hard it is when they get 1,000 applications or whatever it is, and they go, all right, Sarah Turley, why do I know that name? Oh, it's because I've seen her a couple times at conference rather than just being a needle in a haystack. So I thought that was honestly one of the best comparisons I can do because that's what I've been trying to do. And even I've seen PDs or emailed PDs were like, oh, yeah, I remember meeting you at a conference I worked with and attending at my last audition. She was like, Sarah from Las Vegas. I'm like, how do you remember me? But that looked really good coming from me as a student that this attending has already met me at an emergency medicine conference. So your face card, your passport, is everything. Use it. And that just applies to conference, but also things like this, Zoom meetings. If a program has like an intro Zoom or like a get to know me Zoom, I'm on there with my camera on, smiling. They're going to see my face. They're going to see my name. I'm probably going to ask a question because I want my face card stamped. I want them to see me. So go out there and Biden. This is a great way to do it. And also in terms of like mentorship, I think was a big thing that I got from conference. My program, and I know a lot of, especially osteopathic emergency medicine programs, we have a lack of emergency medicine mentorship. We had one guy, love him to death, taught a couple of our emergency medicine lectures. He wasn't a doc or anything like that. He used to work as a paramedic, but I didn't have a person I could go to ask, what third year rotation should I be doing to prepare for emergency medicine? Should I be signing up for more volunteering? I'm about to go through VISLA. What does that look like? And the beautiful picture of these people and a couple of the people on here as well, like they have been my rock through everything. And I met a lot of my mentors through ACOEP. Even before I was on the board, I sat down with Ellis and Savannah and Alex, and I met them before and just asked questions. I got their numbers. So when time comes down the road and I'm like, please read my personal statement, I have people to do that for me. So this is a place where you can make those connections both with residents and other medical students. I just met a girl, she's going to one of the conferences I'm going to later, and we've worked a couple shifts together. And that's someone in my network who I might be working with down the road. So, and especially any third or fourth years on air, pay it forward to the first and second years. If you are speaking to a first year who's first new at conference, give them your number, say hi, I'm here to help you with whatever. I think the cool part about ACOEP is we are a big family. So the resources are endless. And even things like this, you guys will have our contact, a great way to meet in person at conference. You can see on the left side of the screen here, during our skills lab, we always leave a station for a mentorship circle. This is where whatever group you're with will sit down with a couple of our residents and then also a couple of our students on the board and just ask questions. You can ask anything. It's super open-ended. And it just gives you an opportunity to kind of hear about the process. Even if you don't have any questions, I learned a lot from just other people asking questions. And you also meet some really cool friends too. We went to Disney last year and we had also some of the medical students who weren't on the board come, and it was a blast. We were drinking around the world. It was exhausting, but it was a really, really good time. And you just meet a lot of friends who are in your field. And you never know when you go to apply to a program that, oh, I met Ellis over at Brown and I met him at a conference. I'm going to give him a text because I'm applying to his program. Like I said, face card, stamped, it'll help you get through the door. You also get to meet a lot of cool program directors up in the right-hand corner. That was actually one of the EM Over Easy podcasts that I got to ask a question on. So now that's cool where I can say like, oh, I've been on a medical podcast to ask a question. Like these are really cool things that you can do if you put yourself out there to do them. So I honestly think this is one of the biggest takeaways from going to conference is mentorship, getting yourself connected, stamping that face card, and having some support along the way because it does get confusing and it does get stressful. And it's nice if you have even just one number in your phone that you can text. Hey, remember me from conference? We were talking about VSLO. I'm about to apply. I have questions. 99.9% of the time, the people that are in that room that you'll meet will be like, sounds good. You can call me right now. Like, I'm sure if I asked any of them, like they would help me in an instant. So having that in your back pocket is super, super great. Executive board elections, like I said, we're going to be holding ours on Sunday. So mark that out. It'll be on Sunday. So students who have to go back to rotations or anything like that on Monday can still take place. You can see all of our program executive board positions listed on the left. The way our elections work is it's pretty much an open election. They're going to say all the positions that are available, and they'll say, okay, anyone who wants to run for student conference chair, come up to the front of the room. You give a little 2-minute spiel. I think last year I was like, my name's Sarah. I love emergency medicine. I also like wings and tequila. Like I'd love to work with y'all. Like it can be really simple. But you can also talk about like, I do a lot of work in social media, so I think I'd be great at this job. Now, I know this can maybe be a little scary to get up in front of a lot of people and kind of pitch your case like that, but you're putting yourself out there. And those are the people that get board positions. Those are the people that make connections and go a long way. So get comfortable going out of your way. No one's going to say anything for you getting up there. And the cool thing is it's on a rolling basis. So say we do elections for our student publication chair. You run for it, you don't get it. You sit back down. And we say, okay, anyone running for the resident conference chair, if you want to run for that, guess what? You go right back up and run for it again. So you can run for positions that if you don't get one, you can run for another one. So that's really cool too. You don't just have to be like, I'm running for the DOSA and that's it. You can say, oh, I didn't get the DOSA. What else is on the list that I can maybe run for that I would do a good job at? So you get up there a couple times, and usually after the first or second one, it's a lot less awkward and everyone's just vibing with it. So don't be super scared about it. If you want more advice or you're planning on running, come find one of us at conference. We can talk you through it, answer any questions you have about any of the positions or positions that are going to be available, and we can help you out through there. But you do have to be in person to run for these board positions. And I have another, like I said, that PowerPoint that I mentioned earlier about not only ACOEP, but other organizations that have resident student organizations involved with them that you can run for positions. In addition to that, if you don't get a position the first year, I ran the first year I went, didn't get a position. It's okay. Come back the next year, network a little harder, and I promise everything will work out. It's okay if you don't get a position the first time. It's okay if you don't get a position at all, because guess what? You're going to have ACOEP on your resume. You're going to make connections with PDs, and you're going to stamp your face card. And that is the big thing you want to get out of this. But if anyone has any questions about board positions, what it's like, the time commitment, anything like that, shoot any of us an email, come talk to us in person at conference, and we can answer any of those questions for you. Finances and travel arrangements. Like I said, we understand that conference can be a lot to expect from a medical student. Some programs, their EMIGs will help sponsor it. I know one of my years, my EMIG gave us like $250 stipend that covered like our flights. So that helped us out a little bit. And then also for students who maybe you're in the middle of rotations and you're like, oh, I really want to go to conference, but it's on a Friday, I have to leave, and I have to ask my preceptor. We have an official letter from RSO that I'll have on the next slide that you can save and give to your preceptor. I actually had a friend of mine just do that for her clinical coordinator for who schedules her rotations, and she was like, oh, it got approved immediately. It's crazy when you have a very formal letter, what things can do. So I'll save that. There's a QR code for it on the next slide that you guys can save and use for conference this year. Planning out your timing of when to go. It's never too early to attend conference. It doesn't matter if you're a first year, fourth year. Conference is only going to be beneficial. It's not required, but it's going to be beneficial. So if you're kind of gauging what that'll look like, third and fourth year will maybe be a little bit more beneficial for the networking. But like I said, the earlier you get involved, the more connections you will make, and the more you're going to add to that passport of base stamps. Okay. And then understanding the types of conference. Like I said, ACOEP is a smaller family. I think there's a lot of pros to that. This is an osteopathic group. So these are DOs. You guys are going to be DOs. They're doing that job. And we kind of all stick together. I was at an audition last month and the guy was like, oh, you're a DO? Like, I'm a DO. Like, it's this weird little code. I don't know. It's like you just automatically feel connected with someone, which is cool. But so ACOEP will be a smaller conference. It'll kind of be more intimate one-on-one interactions. Something like ACEP will be a very large conference. So they may have a lot more programs for residency fairs, which is great. Like I'm going as a fourth year, like I think it's a great opportunity. But even in those smaller settings, especially like after lectures, if you want to go talk to the person who is lecturing and say, I noticed you were from this program. I loved your lecture. Like having those conversations is a little bit easier when it's a more quaint environment. And I think it kind of encompasses, we take family as a big goal of ours in ACOEP. It feels like a family. The people who come, it's a small group, but it's a strong group. I think it really kind of stands out there in the conference world. And I don't just say that because I'm kind of helping to plan conference. I say that as a student who attended even before she was on the board. I meeting these PDs and they remember your name because you're not the 100th student they've met today. You're the 10th. So that I think that goes a long way as well. In terms of finances, a great thing you can do too is splitting hotels with friends or staying in an Airbnb. I know when we were in Las Vegas a couple years back, the hotels were like 400, $500 a night. The main one that they were staying at, I was a student, I'm broke, can't afford it. We split a big Airbnb 3-bedroom house and we each paid like $200. So these are ways that you can kind of have cheaper options. Doing one that's close to the conference, close to the airport, cuts down on Ubers. So some other options, don't feel like you need to stay at the conference center. You can stay somewhere else and it's probably going to be cheaper. So something to consider, especially when you get into those big cities like Las Vegas, or I know Houston too is a pretty big city. Looking into your other traveling options, splitting with students. Another great reason why you should go to conference, you can meet students. So you can text them, hey, I met you at conference last year. Are you going? You want to split a room? You want to split an Airbnb? A great way to kind of cut down on costs and make it a little more efficient for you. And then this is that letter that I was talking about for you guys. You can scan the QR code if you need it, just to kind of give to preceptors or your clinical coordinator if you need to take a day off. I know it can be a little awkward when you're on your like OBGYN or your family med rotation. You're like, I'm going to an emergency medicine conference and skipping work. That's a tough conversation to have as a student. A nice formal letter written out with a nice kind of asking, I'd really like to attend this conference. This kind of lays out all the things. So then they know too, you're not playing hooky, which I know a lot of people don't think, but it's always in the back of my overthinking mind. I'm like, oh, they think I'm skipping to go to Las Vegas because I don't care about their like rotation. No, I'm going because everything that's in this note. So feel free to use it. Like I said, I had a friend use it and she was like, oh my gosh, it was so much easier than asking. Like they knew what ACOEP was after reading it. So feel free to use that to kind of help with scheduling wise from either your program or your specific preceptor as well. Going to conference alone, not a problem. It's totally okay to go to conference alone. Like I said, we're a very big family. Here's all of us back in Disney. We had medical students who even went to conference alone that came to Disney with us. So we will find a way to get you involved. And if you are coming to conference alone, find your safe zone. Find one of us. We will make sure that you get connected with people. And I think it's a really good way to push yourself too, because when you're on auditions as a fourth year, you're walking into a room of about 5, 10 med students you've never met before, people you've never met before, and probably even a city that you've never been that maybe you don't have a social support around. So kind of forcing yourself to get out of the box, getting comfortable introducing yourself. Oh, like, what are you guys doing tonight? Like, let's go do this and that. Like, it shows a lot when you're comfortable getting to know people because that's what you're going to have to do when you start residency. You're not going to know everybody again. So I think this is a great way to kind of start to push yourself to network and branch out. But we do a lot of social events. We always like to include everybody, even people who aren't on the board. Like when we're doing an event, everybody knows about it. Like I think we were plugging Disney the whole conference. We're like, we're going to Epcot tomorrow, y'all. I know it's till tomorrow, but like we're going in the morning. I'm like, hey guys, still going to Epcot. Like y'all should come to Epcot. We also use WhatsApp. So when you get to conference and even before conference, if you've already registered, we're going to be sending out some communication about getting involved on the WhatsApp beforehand. So if you have any questions, hey, I just got here, not sure where to register, you have a group. It's pretty much like GroupMe for anyone who hasn't used it. You have access to all the people at conference, or hey, like I'm grabbing lunch today, like anyone want to come? Or hey, I'm going to go check out this bar down the road, like if any students want to come, or we'll throw in any social events that we're doing. So you'll be connected. And then you'll also have our info like, hey, Sarah, I'm going to conference alone. I just showed up. I don't really know where I'm going. Can you help me out? You'll already have that contact info to help that transition smoothly. But like I said, we're an EM family. You're going to have time to network. You're going to have groups for Leadership Academy, groups for SimLab, opportunities to where you can meet students. And I would not let it deter you. So if you can't find friends to go to conference with you, it's okay. Go alone because guess what? It's your career, it's your face card. Go stamp it. Okay. So just in general, biggest things I wanted to stress. I wasn't really told to go to conference. It wasn't really networked to me that these things matter. They matter. Like I said, I met a PD 2 years ago who I reached out to and is doing an audition rotation at a program that I might want to apply to. So these connections matter. Your name and your face card has more power than you think. I just went to my audition like a couple days ago and was talking about ACOEP, like, oh, I went to conference last year. And they're like, oh, like you went to conference? Like, that's cool. Like, I went to the one back when they had it and so and so. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'm like, I had so and so do a lecture on this. Oh, I know that PD. Like, these are conversations that you can have that kind of set you apart from the normal crowd who may have just been like, I just decided EM today, haven't really done anything with it, which is fine, but having this under your belt is helpful. And I really wish someone would have stressed that to me before, not only with conference, but anything virtual. Like I said, you guys being on here tonight, face card, boom, stamp, done. Like we have some residents on here right now. Like those are big things that people don't think about. But biggest things out of going to conference, learning about the EM world. I had no idea what a lateral canthotomy is like when I started medical school. And like honestly, like as a second year, wasn't really taught much about it. So if I was a third year or fourth year going in, I wouldn't have known anything. So you kind of dip your toe in the water and have conversation points like, oh, I saw a lecture at conference that said that this drug was better than this for dealing with an agitated patient. That's a really cool thing to hear out of a medical student's mouth as a fourth year. It's the same thing like saying like, oh, I read this new paper that this was better than that. Like conference is a lot easier way for those who don't really like to read like new research or anything like that. Like getting the newest and the best kind of golden rule of practice when it comes to high yield EM pathology. Networking is huge. Stamp the face card, making connections, getting a support system, getting a mentor. All of this is setting you up for success. Like I said, conference is not mandatory. You can match EM without it. It is additional and it is very, very helpful for you as a student. Like I'll be 100% honest. I didn't do very hot on my boards this year. I was really worried about how that was going to affect me going into the application cycle. Thank the Lord that I've made connections with people in conference and I have this on my CV to talk about because that already can kind of help me out with something that I didn't see coming in the future. So also some things to think about. I'm sure you guys will all do beautiful on your boards and you're super smart and wonderful. Me, it just didn't go my way, but I'm still able to apply and feel confident because I've met some of these PDs. I've met some of these residents. They've seen my name on Zooms. I've stamped my face card enough that they're sick of it. So these are big things that are helping you all. And then it's also a fun trip. Like we went to Disney. I never been to Epcot. I got to drink around the world. Like it's cold up here in Michigan. I'm going to be at the pool in Houston, soaking up the sun. Treat yourself. It is a vacation. It's a fun place. We try to do them in fun cities. So if you're going to conference, like it's also a really fun time for you to just relax and have fun and get the most out of it that you can. But that's really all that I have to say. I'll turn it over to Savannah and any of the other members on the board if they want to make any other comments or anything like that. I didn't get a chance to check the chat out yet, but we also have the registration link for conference right here. And then also if you follow us on Instagram, we can get some more conference updates out there as well. But is there anything that any of the board members want to add about any of the slides or any of the topics that we talked about?
Just that you've been missing out on the chat, Turley.
Dang it.
But yeah, come to conference. Sarah did a great job. I think hyped all the important parts. So we hope to see you there. It's also really inexpensive to sign up, so that hopefully is not a barrier. We fight for that every year to make sure it's affordable in that sense.
1000%. Look forward to seeing you guys there. We have a lot of fun, do a lot of learning. You meet some really cool people and make really great connections that are only going to serve you in the future. So can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, I agree with everything that everyone has said. It's a ton of fun. I went my first year. I wasn't sure what to expect, but yeah, I don't ever be deterred by people going like, I'm only gonna go when I'm a third year or when I'm, fourth year or whatever it is. It is such a fun break from the hectic med school life, and it is a fun way to meet new friends and people that you can reach out and just ask questions to as you're going through the process together.
Yeah, the support is big. I mean, truly, I think I've texted all of the residents on here several times about minor chaoses and large chaoses in my life and last minute advice, reading through personal statements, anything like that. And like I said, the biggest thing too is pay it forward. If you're a fourth year going through it, help out your third year and second year and first year friends. Like that's kind of our culture here at ACOEP. And I think it really comes to fruition at conference. So it's a great place to be a part of it. But if anyone has any other questions, I know you guys are busy, so feel free to go for the night. Anyone welcome to stick around. If you have another question to ask, you can hop on the mic and put it in the chat. But I really appreciate you guys taking out the time to come and really put yourself up for success as a medical student. Oh yeah, and Ryan literally came as a pre-med. Like these are things that people like don't forget. So really make sure you guys stamp the face card because I've seen Ryan's face card a couple of times and like that will help him. So in his future. So thumbs up for that. And thank you guys all for coming.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Stick around if you have questions. Otherwise, have a great night.
What's that like thing when kids have pet spells where like they can't breathe like when they're crying or something like that? I feel like that happens when I talk. I get like so clammy in my chest. I'm like, I need to breathe for a sec.
Tetralogy of Fallon. No.
Brewery. I
There
don't
we
know. I'm on
go.
peds. I tell every kid, I'm like, it's a brewery. Brief, resolved, unexplained event.
But
I don't know
yeah,
what happened to your kid. I don't know why they puked up their milk, but they're fine now.
look good to me.
Quick question for you.
Yeah,
I'm not
it's really freaky on the parent side of it, I'll tell you that.
Go
You
ahead.
had a
What's your question?
question. And hi, Alex. How you doing again? I hope
Good to
you're
see you.
surviving your hurricane at this moment.
Good to see you. Trying to.
The pleasure's really mine. Did and m- I'm so sorry if you said this, but did you say if you would be sending us this PowerPoint by any chance so we could forward it to our EMIGs that weren't here and maybe and are still
Yeah.
interested?
Yeah, I can send it. If you want to throw your email in the chat and the video will be posted too on the ACOEP website, but I can email it to anyone who'd like it to for
I,
emails and stuff like that, but for sure.
I would definitely love that. But thank you
Yeah,
so
no
much.
problem.
Have you had any more cookout milkshakes since we last spoke?
I've had the one. I've had the one. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back soon. I'm gonna go back if I'm gonna go
All
back
right.
soon. I'm
All
gonna go back
right.
soon. I'll text you when I next one I get, I'll text you which one I get.
Sounds good.